Okay, welcome Vesna.
Thank you.
Welcome to our kind of episode Meet the Customer, although you're not a customer, but you're almost like a customer. Because as I told you, you're everywhere. So everywhere we go, we hear your name. But can you maybe to our audience explain a little bit about your background, who you are, for those very few people who don't know you, so that we can learn more about you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I started long time ago in Croatia Airlines. I worked in most of the departments in Croatia Airlines because we didn't have any airplanes at that time. So we were preparing everything for Croatia Airlines. And I was one of those that could speak English, could write something. So I started in finance department. I was moved to maintenance department where I learned a lot. Then I moved to cabin crew training department, a little bit about dangerous goods, and then last 10 years when I was in Croatia, I was with the quality department, responsible for documentation and management control, standardization. And while I was there, we had to implement ISO 9001 quality system. And for me, that was a nightmare. I didn't know what the quality system was. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot. And then I was trained as a quality manager to be able to understand how the system functions. And at one point, Lufthansa came and they said, we would like to have a co-chair with you, but you have to be IOSA registered.
What year that was, roughly?
That was 2003, actually 2002. And we had 1 year to implement quality system. And then Lufthansa Group, it was AQS, Aviation Quality Services, a company affiliated with Lufthansa. They came to audit us. And I was one of the auditees for quality assurance topics. And once we were finished with the audit and everything was closed, everything was done, I was approached by them and they asked me if I want to become IOSA auditor. So that is 2004, I became IOSA auditor, and from 2004 until 2013, I worked for Germans, for Lufthansa Group, as a lead auditor and evaluator. And at one point, I was a little bit frustrated with the German way of thinking, you know, everything is black and white. So I switched to American company. I worked for GHS, and I'm still working for GHS, based in Washington. And they lost, also I was, for them, I was IOSA lead auditor and evaluator, but they lost accreditation from IATA, and I was recommended to take another US company, MBNA, also based in Washington, and I worked for them, I don't know, 5 years. 2019, I said, I'm tired. I cannot do it anymore. So in 2019, my last audit was Austrian Airlines. And I said, I'm officially retiring, but I didn't retire actually.
As we can see, yes.
From 2008, I was also IATA instructor. I did a lot of trainings all over the world. This is where people relate to me and where they remember me. So a lot of people in this conference, they know me from the trainings. And the feedback for my trainings were very good because they liked the simple way of explaining things, the simple way of trying to explain things that are pretty complicated in aviation industry. So that's the story of my life.
Your story is very, very, very rich in the various
Yeah.
areas that you touch. You started in finance, and look where you
Yes.
ended up. Yeah.
Correct.
Just maybe like to go back at the beginning of your career. Why aviation? Why you applied for the job for Croatia?
Because for 10 years I was working in, at the university in the finance department, and I hated that. And all of a sudden, after the war, there was some stories that Croatia will have a flag carrier. And that was something that I wanted
Or to be part of? Or?
to be part of that. So I applied for a job, and that is also actually a nice story. I was working for university 9 years and 11 and a half months. Okay. If you work for university for 10 years, you are entitled for some kind of a bonus. Huh?
Ooh, okay, I already see where it's going.
Exactly. But there was another opportunity to join Croatia Airlines team in finance department. I didn't care where. I just wanted to move. So I resigned immediately. And big boss said, but you need only 2 weeks to get the
Yeah.
bonus for, 10th anniversary. I said, no, I don't know if they will wait for me. But they did. And
You
I
got
never,
you got the bonus?
no,
No?
I didn't get the bonus, but I was very happy that I moved to Croatia Airlines, and
And the rest is history, yeah.
the rest is history.
Although you had like very, very like interesting career, like it was not that straightforward
No.
to get to the
No.
safety and quality.
No.
But I think the Germans noticed your talent relatively quickly. If
Yes.
it was 2002 that you said.
2004.
And they already took you in 2004,
Yes.
so it was
Yeah.
a very short period of time they noticed you.
Yeah.
And
The
they
first
took you.
audit that we did with them because they could not approach me during the audit. This is a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So they said, once everything is closed, you got your certificate. Now we are approaching you if you would like to join us.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I said, okay, why not?
But would be that the changing point of your career, that particular event?
Yes, it was. Because I thought the things that I was doing in my company, that's the way things should be done. But when I started traveling, seeing small companies, large companies doing the same things, but in a different way, like we were doing in Croatia Airlines, my eyes were opened. I audited, American Airlines, Nippon Cargo, those guys that are here.
Japanese.
In Kazakhstan, Air Astana. Those guys that are also here in Malaysia Airlines. I lived in Malaysia for 4 years.
Wow.
So everything was somehow connected, and I found my way.
Yeah, I mean, I find your career like very fascinating because you touch so many countries.
Yeah.
They're kind of part of you,
Yeah.
all those
They are.
experiences. Because every time we even approach some actually airline,
Yeah,
we get to hear your name. Like they are very impressed with your trainings.
yeah,
It's like
Yeah.
very memorable.
yeah.
So can you maybe tell me about your way of doing the presentations? Like it's very, very unique, and I've seen it in the last ICARUS conference that you had,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna see it tomorrow probably.
Probably.
During the second day of our conference. But can you explain me what's your secret there, and how you get to them in that way?
Well, when I started with the airline aviation or airline business is different for any other business because we are using a lot of abbreviations. We are using a lot of acronyms that are actually only known in the aviation industry. So when I joined the airline, everybody was talking in abbreviations, and I was going around. I didn't understand half of the things.
Yeah, it's like
So-
another language.
Exactly. So when I was appointed as a deputy quality manager and documentation, whatever was title of my position, the CEO said, you have to do the training on documentation, on quality system, what we are doing. So my first trainings started with abbreviations and regulations. How to understand, and it was simplified for people that are not so familiar with aviation industry. So this is how I started. And my mentor from ISO 9001, she said, you will never be a trainer. Because I was nervous. I was afraid. I didn't trust myself. But after some time, I could put my experience into the trainings and challenge people. If they need a guidance, I will give a guidance, but I will try to simplify those things because regulation is complicated enough. So if you don't simplify it, you don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I have seen it all over the world because I performed more than 200 IOSA audits all over the world. I knew the regulation by heart. And people are saying, how can you remember that? After 200 audits, you are asking actually 200 times the same question. You have to memorize it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So that is how I'm...
But I like what you mentioned, is that that you want to provoke
I
them
do.
actually, and
Yeah.
this is the style that I think I also personally believe it's the best approach to provoke the other side. It's not about you explaining, like you provoke them. Like, is this something that you use like psychology way to get the participants to?
You have to shake them
Yeah.
so that they start looking at you like, what she's talking about. And then they start thinking in a different way. If I can achieve that, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I feel like it's like psychology because you just need to get through to their brain
Yeah.
in order to get away from the autopilot mode
Yeah.
in the brain. Yeah, but no, your trainings are impressive, and I have seen it personally, and everybody is talking about it. But
Thank you.
can you maybe now tell me, you have seen so many airlines,
Yes.
and you did so many IOS audits.
Yes.
What you would like summarize? What are the biggest challenge for each of these airlines that you audited? What do you see the most?
It depends on culture. When you are auditing airlines in a different environment, if you go to Middle East, if you go to Japan, if you go to United States, if you go to Germany or Europe here, you can see a different approach, a different mindset. And during audits, I had to embrace or to ensure that I don't offend people in different cultures because my culture is different.
Yeah, you have to adopt.
Exactly. So I was always honest. I don't hide things. If you are not in conformity with something, I would tell you, this is okay, but this portion is missing. In some cultures, this is not acceptable. But I thought that being honest is much more appreciated than trying to hide things and go in a different way. Maybe because I started with the Germans and they have, you know, black and white. Then I moved to Americans where they put everything in a nice box with a ribbon, and I'm always looking whether am I crazy or they are crazy.
Yes.
So it is the way. I don't know. First of all, I have to say I love this job. I still love
Well, I
that.
can see it through you.
I'm still passionate about this. I still love people approaching me with their problems and looking at me trying to solve their problem. And I don't have a magic stick. What I can give them, some things that I saw around the world saying, okay, I saw this is working in this area, this is working in that area, you find your way, you know. Sometimes that backfired because people would say, oh, Vesna said I have to do it this way. But I don't care because I think I helped.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, maybe to rephrase the question also for in terms of the airlines.
Yeah.
Like what are their areas with most like findings that you had in during IOSA audits? Like where they struggle the most, in which areas?
Organization and management.
Yeah. So yeah, Vesna, maybe you can tell me, just you have done so many audits, and I would like to ask you, like, what are the usual findings that you have found in all those airlines across those years?
The most, or the biggest issue is always on the organization and management. Operational personnel, they know procedures, manuals are in place. However, management either does not support or there is a failure of a system on the top level. And if you want to change something, you have to change the organizational level. This is also today in this industry, the main root cause, organizational failures. Yeah. We will talk about this tomorrow on the presentation, where I will talk about errors and violations, to see that people don't come to work to make mistakes, or usually they don't deliberately make errors or violate procedures. There is something, some contributors behind that. So.
But does it always go back to the organization?
Always.
Yeah. Because it's applicable to any company.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But we have to admit that, we have to see that, and we have to change the system where people are operating. Not pointing or blaming people for doing mistakes or violate procedures.
Oh, very interesting, yeah. So it's not something like in the operational side.
No.
Yeah.
Operational side very often is okay. But when you dig, why operational personnel?
It goes back.
It goes back.
It goes back,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if we don't fix those things from bottom to up, we are usually only checking or fixing problems here, but those problems are coming back.
But have you noticed any change from the time that you started working?
Definitely.
And today,
definitely, definitely. The change in documentation with web manuals, change with softwares like UA. This is a great tool for airlines to help them to somehow collect the data, analyze data, to sort the data, to give them, I don't know, trends, or it's a helpful tool. Without that, we would not be...
They're struggling without.
Exactly. Because you cannot put all that data into the Excel sheet and try to do it manually. Use AI, use those tools that are there.
But you have seen even in a lot of airlines, they still use manual approach.
Yes, they do.
Which is like surprising.
We are old school. We trust papers. We trust something that we do. We don't trust that I don't know, AI.
Yeah.
And young generations are coming, and we have to embrace that. Yes, you have to cross-check everything, but if somebody is already collecting and analyzing, sorting, just go and cross-check, supervise, don't do a manual work. And this is where we have to learn to adapt those AIs and new technologies.
Yeah, and staying on this topic, we also have seen like emergence of these new technologies like AI that is rapidly developing.
Yes,
But aviation is much slower in adopting.
of
But
course.
what do you see here in your experience? You have a vast experience in auditing all these airlines, and you have seen these processes. How you see AI here in this aviation safety like kind of field?
Absolutely great, because it can collect the data instead of me writing into the Excel sheet. And then when I have 200 entries, I don't know what was the first entry. But you can use AI to generate, if you put a good, how do you call it? I don't know, taxonomy, the same language, the same taxonomy. Perfect.
But usually that is a problem, even like for us when we want to implement AI, they struggle with the basic part with this taxonomy. It's all over the place.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
even the AI cannot help them.
Of course, because you didn't give him right data. You cannot give them different data and then try to ask AI to come up with analysis. If the data is not structured in a proper way, you cannot do it. Root cause analysis, human error, the most common thing. What does it mean, human error? You have to use something that is there. This is the basics. And then say, AI, please, could you go and check how many times we assessed a human error as a root cause? How many times fatigue was assessed? But if you don't write in the database fatigue, you are not going to find it.
Exactly, exactly.
So I do believe in that, but you, as the person that developed the software, you have to guide them, because people will give you everything. And the most important thing is people don't know how to write the report.
Oh yeah, yeah, we have seen everything.
You get a lot of junk, and they ask AI, give me some good data. About what? About the junk?
Yeah, you're right. But let's say, imagine like you sorted out the data, you organized correctly this. Where do you see AI then moving forward? Like we are getting a lot of like potential kind of solutions that the AI can substitute the whole workflow.
This is what I cannot answer, because I'm not so into AI. My daughter is, she's much younger. She can talk to ChatGPT or, I don't know, Claude, whoever person is. I can challenge that, but I don't know. But the good thing is, I'm thinking from just collecting the data previously and trying to find some trends, we are moving to that data is becoming some kind of the information. Now, what AI can do with information, this is something that I don't know. So this is where I rely on younger generations, that they will say, this is the way to go, and this is the way we should go.
We should go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for this detailed answer. And just last but not least, just a little bit about you. What are you doing except aviation in your free time?
Oh, I like to mow the lawn.
Wanted to relax you?
This is the first thing when I come from a long haul flights. Put my suitcase in my house and check my grass whether this is the way I should do.
You like the smell of after
I
you do?
love it. I love
can
it.
relate
And
to it.
after that, I like to see it as a carpet. So this is thing. I like my garden. I like my grandchildren. So these are the things. I like to bake cakes. I like to make lunch for my family. So these are the things that I enjoy when I come home.
And I see that your daughter will take over your work and she will help you.
Yes.
And how is that going?
It is going very well. After 10 years of trying to teach her, to pursue her, that she should do
Yeah, definitely.
this, now she can understand this passion, and she is also passionate about this.
Even
And
I have seen the difference from the last conference, to be honest. From
correct.
2 years, she's
Yes.
like very into it, and I
Yeah.
believe she can really continue the way
Yes.
you did it. Yeah.
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 She's also IATA instructor, and what she said, a good thing is when she's not certain something, she can always say, "Mom, what does it mean?"
Yeah,
So
you're right.
we can still
Yeah.
discuss it and do it together.
Thank you very much, Vesna.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you. You
Thank
are a
you.
star of aviation and safety.
Thank you so much.
And looking forward to have you in more conferences here.
I will make sure to be at your conference in 2 years' time
Yes,
again,
it will be a pleasure.
with some maybe different topic, not so difficult like this
No,
time.
it's perfect.
But
I think it will be very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have no doubts.
thank you for
Thank you very
inviting
much.
me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.